good morning, everyone. I am really happy to be here. So I am LauraTKelso. I'm actually a real estate broker. I have my own brokerage called Kelso Homes. And I kind of coined myself as a downsizing specialist, but also what's called a certified senior housing professional, which really means that I belong to a very special niche of realtors around the country who are dedicated to the idea of educating and empowering older adults. And by the time I say older adults, 50 and beyond, anyone really who is beyond that milestone where they start to think about, hey, maybe it's time to sell the family home, maybe they're helping parents, they're assisting grandparents with these transitions that you make as an older person, because they truly are different types of moves than we once made in maybe our 30s or our 40s as our families are expanding and we're moving from a smaller house to a bigger house. It's a whole different ballgame. And so this specialty has the idea of not only assisting people who would like to age in place with how to age in place, but preparing for a future plan so that whatever you decide to do, it empowers that individual to choose the right plan for them. So today my talk is going to be on aging in the right place. I'm sure that in recent years we've had a lot of talk about that idea of aging in place. And a lot of people might have it in their mind. I mean, I speak to seniors on a regular basis, and many of them just get that idea in their mind that, I hear the phrase, nope, you're taking me out in a pine box. That's when I will leave my home. And honestly, there's some wonderful, options out there of aging in place, and we're going to talk about that. But what I'm going to both encourage and challenge everyone in this room, and also to, help convey to clients that you might be working with, that there is no right answer and there is no right path when it comes to making this very, very important and individualized decision. Where you choose to age is so dependent on a number of factors that we're going to go through today. And just simply things, this is designed to start a conversation and get people thinking about how these very important factors that are so individualized work to help you make that decision. And even if you have an initial plan of aging in place or even downsizing, how it is so important to also have a contingency plan and to wrap yourself with both family and professionals who both know about that, your plan and your desires, and who can help support you in that plan as you go through it. So, age in place or downsize? That is a certainly very important question. And according to a survey published by AARP a while ago, 76% of adults 50 and over stated that they desired to remain in their current home, which is great, even if the home didn't meet their current needs. Now, think about that for a moment. How often in our lives do we keep doing something that's not necessarily working for us simply because the idea of tackling that issue or changing or overcoming the hurdles that it's going to take to get to the next level, the thought of that is so overwhelming that we simply choose the status quo. Can I get any? I can name, 6 things in my life probably at this given moment that one of these days, I'll get to that. And that's what I really want to encourage older adults with, the idea who'd simply say, nope, I'm staying in my home, without ever exploring and learning about these options and asking themselves the hard question. Because the fact is that even most of the people who have stated that their desire is to stay in their homes, I have moved many of them. Because sometimes life changes and we need to be prepared for that. So in helping make that decision, The strategy that I really suggest is to make sure that your current home is safe, and also to learn your very best options should you desire or need to move in the future. Okay, so there's three main elements that we're really going to look at when considering that decision: the person themselves, the home itself, and the support network surrounding that person. Now, this is not, when you come to thinking about your housing decisions, it really is one portion of a much bigger picture. And one of the things that I have tried to promote as I developed the GR Savvy Seniors Group back in 2019 was this idea that all of these decisions factor into a much bigger picture that can, and by doing some things proactively, the individuals and families can put themselves in a position where they can virtually be ready for almost anything. Now, we know that life happens and things can be challenging, but there's really a number of very specific areas, key areas, I should say, that help in this bigger picture. So the first is what we're going to talk more and dive into in detail today, is evaluating your current home for first safety, maybe repairs that it might be necessary, adaptability, and also knowing the value of your home. The second would be making sure that your legal and your financial items are up to date. So there seems to be a prevailing thought sometimes when I'm dealing with seniors that are, not necessarily high dollar value people, that things like a financial plan and an estate plan are for others. Sometimes there's that idea that, I don't really have all that much. I don't want to invest in that. And yet it's truly the opposite in the sense that the senior living communities and options, there are just so many different options, and there are options at every single economic level. And the importance of making a plan and talking to professionals, and most of the professionals that I know that are worth their salt, they will do free consultations so that you can really get an idea on what your needs might be and what it would take to put your wishes on paper so that someone else knows about them. Because the alternative when someone passes and they do not have these things in place simply is very, very complicated and can really make it challenging for those that are left. So I simply encourage talking to somebody, and whatever that plan looks like, making sure it's down on paper. And then the final thing is exploring all of the viable living options that could possibly fit your lifestyle and fit your budget. Now, this doesn't mean you are ever going to move, and that's one of the things that I'm really going to emphasize throughout this talk, is the idea of putting yourself in a position of control and having a plan and a contingency plan, and not so much as telling you there's any right way to go. So first off, looking at the person yourself, your overall health and mobility. Are you somebody that is out running marathons? That's not me, for sure. Or are you struggling with some health challenges and possibly some mobility challenges that you didn't expect? That's going to make a big difference in your choice of where you're going to live. The second is your social and emotional needs. If you're a person that absolutely thrives when you're within a social group, you love doing planned activities, you love attending classes, a senior community might absolutely be the very best thing. It might be the place that you absolutely thrive. Now, if you're someone who really is very introverted and loves their space and loves your home and quiet activities by yourself, that's also going to figure into that decision. And lastly, if you own a home now, do you actually enjoy caring for your home? Some of us do. Sometimes, but that can also have its limits. Or would you really prefer to be somewhere else and to be doing something else, but simply have to take care of your home as an obligation? So those are all important questions in relation to the person. Now, the house itself is going to make a difference. If you're somebody that has just built a house in the last 10 years, that's nice and new and all the mechanicals are new and you are already living in a house that has items on one level, or are you living in a farmhouse that was built in 1890? And I work with clients on all of that spectrum and houses that are in every single style and condition, and in terms of how much maintenance is required, age of the house and condition makes a big difference. Now, one level living. As people age, it can be very, very beneficial to have the ability to have one level living. We're going to talk more about having a primary bedroom on one level, having a primary bath on one level, and a laundry can be, very important things to make sure that you have in a house. Lastly, location and adaptability. So you might have a house that would be easily adaptable to making some age-in-place friendly changes to it. You might live in a neighborhood where you're surrounded by people who can help you if you need it. Or you might be living in the country where if you had a challenge and an issue and you really needed assistance, it would take a while for someone to get to you. So those are all questions that are very directly house and location related. Now lastly, your personal support network. I loved Dr. Varma's talk and that idea of none of us perform well as an island. And there are, times when all of us need that support network. And as people age, and especially if they've lost a spouse or become single through divorce or something else, having a network of family and friends that you can literally call at the drop of a hat is so important to both your just emotional stability and your physical health and the ability to age in place. And what about even proximity to healthcare providers and caregivers? If you have the idea that, hey, I'm going to stay in my home and I'm going to plan on bringing in the help that I need, and that help can escalate as time goes on, that can absolutely be a great plan. But you want to make sure that where you live and the proximity to those people does not hinder that as you age and might need more care. Finally, what are your other people resources? So we live in Michigan, where 1 minute it's 60 and the next minute we're going through a blizzard. There are times when, we have power outages and things like that. There are certain aspects of our household that are simply on my husband. So I've been married for almost 30 years, and thank goodness my husband grew up on a farm and can pretty much tackle just about anything if he needs to. And when it comes to certain things of, we have a generator and we've used it, but I'm telling you, I don't know how to do that on my own. When that's required, I am pulling a combination of my husband, my 18-year-old, different things to wait, what button? Which one? How do you turn this on? How do I not kill myself and asphyxiate, our family by doing this? There are just things that I absolutely need assistance with. And he tends to travel a lot during the winter. And I will tell you that I make different choices when I know that he is on the other side of the country than I do when I know that he's a phone call away. And so if you are somebody who is, living in a home on your own for whatever reason, building that network of other people resources is absolutely critical to your success and well-being. And then finally, the woman looking out the window, we've been through a lot in these last few years. And there is truly an epidemic of loneliness that is going on. And I won't say that it's really specific to any age group, but I think as people age, it can simply become more prevalent. And I speak with seniors all the time, and they feel hesitant sometimes to reach out to, their kids, and they're busy with their families and they're busy with their jobs. And it can really it's become a different world where the way we connect is different. So if someone's continuing to live in their house, unless they have built up a comfortable network and have neighbors and people that are close by that can stop by on a regular basis, it can really possibly become lonely, even if you're somebody who generally enjoys that alone time, enjoys your house, and enjoys being by yourself. Okay, so for anyone who is determined, I really, really love my home, and I'd like to age in place as long as possible. So what does that look like? So here are the first questions that you want to ask. How adaptable is your home right now? Do you have the main floor laundry, primary bath, and primary bedroom that I had spoken about before? Those are key elements. Do you have things like strategically placed grab bars to help keep you safe? Falls are one of the highest things that can, affect a senior's ability to live at home, and one fall and a broken bone in the wrong place can make all the difference in someone's whole life and the ability to get back to 100%. So just doing some of these things proactively can make a huge difference. Is it necessary to climb stairs to enter or exit your home? That can make a big difference. I have come to realize that even 2 stairs with someone who is in a walker or a wheelchair is really difficult to navigate. It's, it can be a very small amount, and yet it's very challenging. And then when you add in, here in Michigan, winter, ice, things like that, that can absolutely become a hazard for an older person. A low threshold shower. As you age, it can be very difficult for someone to actually step into the shower that is a tub shower combination. So we see a lot of people who then make that determination to replace their old tub shower with a low threshold shower that they can even get in, and then possibly even if it's something that you might need a wheelchair eventually to enter and exit, that they can do that proactively. Wider doorways, proper flooring options. One of the things that as people age and you're going through your home, those transitions between carpet and hard flooring and things like that can get much more challenging to navigate. So just that idea of the fewer transitions that you have in a home, so that if you are, for any reason, using a cane, a walker, or simply, not quite as stable as you once were, that you're not hitting things that could cause a fall. Improving lighting, that can be a key element to just being able to see everything. Clear pathways throughout the home, and I'm going to talk a lot more about the idea of stuff and what is too much stuff in a home, and what are some of the things that you can do simply to make sure that your living arrangement is safe. And if changes are needed, what would the cost be? So a lot of people say, well, I'm going to live at home and I'm going to age in place, and I'm just going to add a stair lift, and I'm going to add one of those elevator things that goes down your stairs, and I'm going to bring in assistance as I need it. Well, those are all great options and they're great ideas. But the question is, have you explored what that looks like cost-wise? And are those costs realistic? And if you have all these other things in place where it makes sense to age in place, and you look at the cost of adapting your home and those costs are all realistic for you, then by all means, that can be a great option. But if you assume that that's going to be your option without exploring the realities of those options, that can be a problem. So the next thing is, who can help me with that? And just for fun, can anyone else think of things that are aging in place, good practices to do that's worked with that?
I don't know if it's good practice category, but when I walk my neighborhood, I can almost tell you who's aging in place, because we always look at the interior, and I have no idea what's behind those windows, but I can tell you outside, the exterior, choices to replace a roof or to get some repairs, they're saying no to it because of their fixed income and such. And it really brings the neighborhood down as well, because you can just pinpoint who's not doing well in their home.
Yeah, and we're going to kind of talk about that back there.
Access to public transportation.
Yes,
Like
yes.
you live where there's buses or Uber or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a lot more options these days for things like Uber, Lyft, which can be really helpful, but those bring other challenges, because I know that, I just spoke with a girlfriend who was taking an Uber, and we just talked about that idea of when you are traveling by yourself and you have a stranger pick you up, especially if it's at night or whatever, you're putting yourself in a rather vulnerable position. And that can be scary as well. So definitely that all goes along with proximity to all these different services that can help you. So the next is, the who can you turn to for some of these things. So we have some great options here in West Michigan that can be helpful to people who are wanting to age in place. So who is aware of home repair services in this room? Okay, so we have a couple, but not really many. So I've had the great fortune of being on the board of Home Repair Services for about 6 years now. And they are absolutely an amazing nonprofit who their main goal is simply to empower homeowners in all ways. So they don't deal with anyone who rents. It's all about people who already own a property. And they work with people in the financial realm. They help people in the aging in place realm. They assist people in teaching them how to maintain their homes safely, to age in place safely. And one of the things that they do for older individuals is free home safety inspections. And they can come and do a free home safety inspection and determine all of the things that could be useful to that person. And sometimes they've even really come across some big safety issues in homes that people never would have had any idea were there. And then they also, if the person qualifies financially, can come in and do those adaptations to the home for a very reduced rate. Yes?
Are they listed through the area agency on aging?
They are. They are. Yep. And they even offer classes. Like one of my favorites, they have a very specific class called Handy Helen that they do, and it is for women, I think it's women over 60, and they teach them everything from, some basics of electrical and plumbing. And when you're in those classes, it's not just somebody up here with a PowerPoint. You're sitting there and you've got a fake toilet tank in front of you, and they're telling you, all right, this little part here, I'm going to teach you how you can buy it at Lowe's for $10 and understand how to put it in so that you don't need to call a plumber and pay $200 for something that's simple. So it's really about empowering people on how to know those things so that they can take care of it themselves if they want to, or simply not be taken advantage by a contractor who might not have their best interests at heart. The other is disability advocates. And disability advocates is really, they can help, have a couple different areas of specialty. They work with persons of all ages who have a disability to help them live more comfortably in their homes and just function in life. But they also very specifically help people who are working to age in place, and that idea of, think about what they call universal design components, where you're looking at designing your home so that it can be adaptable for someone who might be aging in place, but also good for the rest of your family, because you might have people residing in the same household that are at all different levels of mobility, and we really want to design a home that is welcoming for everyone who lives there, regardless of their age or ability. The other thing is, if you're someone who simply wants to renovate your own home to make it more aging in place friendly, one of the things you want to look for is a contractor who's actually labeled as a CAPS contractor, and that stands for Certified Aging in Place. So these are contractors who have very specifically completed training in things that help people to safely age in place. Okay, so what about you're planning to age in place and life throws you a curveball? So who saw COVID coming? I mean, holy cow, when our oldest son at the time, who was going to MSU, called us and said, MSU just canceled all our classes. I'm heading home for the rest of the year. It was beyond comprehension. It truly was. And then, of course, as the time went on, and we all of a sudden had a house full of kids again, which was wonderful. I mean, you know what? We had fun. We enjoyed it. We played cards, and we ate a lot of unhealthy food and things like that. But there were people that were stuck in their house by themselves who had a completely different experience. And even with the joy of having my very crazy family around, it got a little old after a long period of time. And of course, none of us could have thought how long COVID would last, some of the ramifications of not seeing our parents. I didn't see my own mom and her husband or our in-laws for the better part of a year and a half. I mean, there were really some crazy things. And then the idea of, losing a spouse. Sometimes you just have no idea when these things are going to happen. And planning for the idea that just in case, I've made some plans and I feel like I could survive. Now, this picture up here, that would be my left ankle. Okay? And that was a morning back in January, and I think it was 2019, where my wonderful husband, who never tells me what to do, had sent me a text in the morning and said, "It's really bad out. Don't go out today." And I had been feeling so proud of myself because I was going to this very early morning workout class that started at 7 a.m. at MVP. And being the good wife of almost 30 years that I am, I looked at that text and I went, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. And I put the phone in my pocket and I, went to this class and I successfully did this class, and I'm literally chatting with a gal, right before I leave about, my husband told me I shouldn't go out today, whatever. And I take a couple steps out into the parking lot. It was glare ice. I completely go down. I had to be helped back into the building. They rolled a office chair out to get up. And 2 days later, I had major surgery and plates, screws, wires, and found myself on my couch for approximately the next 10 weeks. Okay, I went from having a packed schedule to a not so packed schedule. And we have our bedrooms are all upstairs. My office had been in the lower level. So, my family was wonderful. They helped move my office to the living room. And every day I would scoot on my bottom down the stairs. And my husband had like a breakfast set out for me. I mean, I could not have functioned without the assistance of my family. And it happened so quick in the blink of an eye that, I never saw it coming. And it really did take a while before he did say, "I told you so." So it was a while. Yeah, I called him up and he works actually in Lansing, so he does drive an hour every day. So he's very good at knowing the roads. And I get a what? I was pretty sure he thought I was in a ditch. And when I said, I think I broke my leg, he was a little nicer. So, but I'm a firm believer in faith and God. And I very much took this as God showing me what so many of the people that I work with, they go through this stuff all the time. And I had never been put in such a vulnerable position for that long. And it gave me a completely different perspective on people, especially those that live on their own, that all of a sudden face a health crisis of any kind that changes everything for them. And so I look at that time, really, as difficult as it was, as very much a gift in helping me to better serve others. Okay, so what I encourage is that idea of, regardless of someone aging in place, that it's critical to make a future real estate plan. So what does a future real estate plan look like? So it's that idea first of looking at your home and tackling all the deferred maintenance items that might be there, evaluating the life expectancy of the major systems in your home. Think the furnace, the roof, the foundation, the windows, the water heater. Even something as relatively inexpensive as a water heater, when they go out and your basement floods, it can be a major undertaking. And just like you were talking about, Linda, with the idea of some of these things that people, I'll have people say, well, I want to live in my home because it's free, because I've got my mortgage paid off. Well, there's no such thing as living in a home and having it be free. If you are not tackling those maintenance items, they can become very, very important and absolutely a deterrent to remaining in that home. And it's not uncommon for me to work with seniors that do eventually move that tell me, well, I haven't been upstairs in years. Or I've found some crazy things in basements. And it's the same thing. Those people literally have not been down those stairs in years because they haven't needed to. They're living all on their main floor, and that's great. But the fact is, there are things that can happen to your home, and if you're not able to visit every area of your home and see some of these things, they can become a small problem, can become a very, very major problem quickly if you don't know it's happening. One of the other things I encourage people, regardless of whether they're planning on moving, is working on downsizing your items now. And we're going to talk more about that, but I am just such a firm believer of truly looking at all the things that you own, keeping the items that bring you joy, and the idea of these preconceived notions that if you lived in a house for a number of years, that it needs to be updated to sell. It absolutely does not. It needs to be clean and uncluttered. It does not need to be updated. And a quality, realtor that you trust can help you assess the things in your home that would help it sell easily, and if there's anything that does need to be done, but updates are not one of them. It's simply a matter of pricing and your goals. Exploring the living options that you might enjoy. So even someone who doesn't think that they would ever be happy in a condo or any type of a senior community or living with their children or any of that, the whole idea is to explore those options. Because if there was a case where you needed to move and yet you've never stepped foot in any type of a senior living community and all you have is preconceived notions of, oh, they're too expensive or they're too this or they're too that, I encourage people, I'm like, take advantage of those free lunches. Those places have really good food. Go explore, go meet people, talk to your friends who have moved into different types of places, and just become familiar with what those options are. And lastly, reach out to a realtor that you trust and have them do a comparative analysis on your home now. Now, this has nothing to do with doing it because you're going to sell, but I encourage all of my people to think of knowing the value of your home no differently than you would check the balance on your 401k. Your house is like a bank account for living expenses. And I work with many, many older adults that often their home is their main asset. And that's what's going to be there to help them fuel whatever their future plan is. And so for them to, not really have any idea whether their home is worth $200,000 or $400,000 makes a big difference. Yeah.
As a realtor, do you just get involved with the housing end of things, or do you get involved in terms of exploring alternatives? I'm talking about senior communities. How do you, personally interact with that and the individual? Yeah,
so I actually do all of that, which is really part of being that certified senior housing professional, but it's very, very rare. So we'll kind of, in another slide, I'll walk you through the system that I do with people, and I think that'll help clarify that question, because there's a lot of wonderful realtors out there. There really are. There's a lot of not so wonderful ones too, but for the most part, there's some very quality people that can help you sell your home. But like I said, especially a downsizing move and the choices that go along with that and all of the additional duties that go along with downsizing a house that you've been in for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I'm just working with a house I've got under contract right now where the couple just moved into assisted living. They were there for 60 years. So homes accumulate things and, projects over that period of time. So it's, working with elderly almost specifically, I really can't help that person to the best of, my ability without offering these wraparound solutions. So that to me is so important. And it's also important to have think of a real estate professional and having someone at your disposal who you can reach out to at any time for real estate questions that does not care whether you're selling anytime soon. Think of this as, an advisory role, no different than having a financial advisor. It's so, real estate is a big part of people's lives, and it's important to have a person that you can ask these questions to. Now, one of the things that I try and just teach people as I'm meeting with them, I sit down often years before someone would make a move, and we talk about, in this current market, we're going to look at comparable sales. And that idea is looking at what the houses around you have sold and the likely selling price that your home would sell for. And then what I want them to understand is if they sold, also what they would actually walk away with, because that's going to be what's going to help move us forward in your living choices. So then we want to actually do exactly what you asked and explore those living choices. So I don't generally do those tours with people, but I have very close relationships with a number of people who are what's called senior living advisors, and they are very knowledgeable about all the various options that we have here in West Michigan. One caveat I will put, and I tell everyone, is please, please, please do not just go on the internet to A Place for Mom or caring.com or some of these others. I encourage you to reach out to a local professional who knows this area and who will work with you personally and personally take you on tours and who are intimately familiar with the details of the communities that we have in our area here, which are excellent, but they're also very different. And so it's so important to really look at, if I'm moving from a large family home, am I going to benefit from a smaller home, a condo, possibly just an apartment? Would I enjoy a senior community? Or would I even want to move in with my kids? Most of the time I say that to seniors and they're like, oh my gosh, I am not moving in with my kids. So one of the final things is I'm all set to age in place. Why on earth would I downsize my belongings? I want my family to be able to choose whatever they want when I'm gone. Okay, you should be laughing right now because I tell people, all right, newsflash, they do not want your stuff. Please, please, please know that your kids do not want your stuff. And why do you want to downsize it now? Well, the biggest reason is safety. Because one of the things for safely aging in place is having clear walkways and clear surfaces so that if you're walking and you need to, have your hand on countertops and things like that, that you are not hitting paperwork and items that could make you fall. That if an ambulance had to be called, that they could get a gurney in your home safely, and that they could safely maneuver through every room to find you and help you. Those are critical questions of being safe. Finally, just peace of mind. When my house is more chaotic than it usually is, it's never perfect. But when I have stuff that is out, it messes with my peace of mind. And when it's clean and uncluttered, it simply feels better, and it feels like a more welcoming place. And part of that isolation sometimes that seniors can, come into is if they haven't been able to maintain their home, whether that's the true maintenance or whether it's cleanliness or clutter or whatever, it makes them less apt to invite people into their space and have those social gatherings that are so important to your peace of mind. And simply the ability to bless others. Because there are so many young 20-somethings and 30-somethings that are absolutely struggling to buy homes and competing and all these crazy things with offers. Please think of blessing them with things that might be in a basement or an attic that are not being used. And I really feel so strongly about that idea that downsizing your things while you are healthy and able is truly a gift to yourself and your loved ones. And then one of the other reasons is, until you have emptied out a house, has anyone helped a grandparent empty out a house or a parent? It's hard, isn't it? And
I have PTSD.
I'm telling you, that is not unreal. And I can tell you that I have literally watched many grown-ups break down and cry over the overwhelm of they've just lost a parent or a close friend or a grandparent. They're hurting. They've gone through a funeral. And now they have to deal with a house. And even a house that is neat and clean and organized can be a challenge. When you've got a house of someone who has struggled with hoarding to any degree, and there are lots of different degrees, it can literally be just absolutely awful. And I am intimately familiar with clearing out houses and what to do with all of the stuff. And you want to look at even heirlooms or items that belong to family. I know one of the things that I know a lot of the people that I meet struggle with is that idea of, well, my grandmother passed and I got all of her stuff. And then my mother passed and I got all of her stuff. And I can't bear to get rid of those items. And I really try and emphasize that idea of, please ask yourself the question of, what are those items doing for you? Are they personally bringing you joy? Or are you using them? Or could they possibly go to someone else who would use them or appreciate them? And if the answer to those are no, I don't care who owned it. I don't. If it becomes detrimental to your peace of mind and safety to keep it. And honestly, it can be very challenging to actually get rid of items. And it's not like a bank account. Often people think, well, my things are going to be worth all this money. I am often paying people large sums of money to cart away things that people once paid good money for, because they simply are not items that are things that people want now. And even things like documents to be shredded, items to be recycled, paint, chemicals, it's a job. And so I encourage you to work with someone who understands and knows how to do that. Okay, so here's the system that I suggest, and people can do something similar on their own. But when I'm working with someone who is considering a downsize, we look at a bunch of things. We first look at the items of their home. We decide what would go with you if you moved. And then really figure out, we take all those items that they'd like to bring with them, we measure them, we take pictures, we put it into a very organized spreadsheet. We determine where they're moving. So I would say 90% of the people that I work with, we move them first. We get them all settled in their new space, regardless of what that is. It could be moving in with their children, apartment, senior community. but I actually measure their new space. We take all the items that we've measured that they want to bring with them. We do the space planning for them in their new space. We get them all moved. Then we go back and deal with the home. And what I've found, people who have a lot of stuff, once they have safely chosen the items that are most important to them and the items that bring them joy, gotten safely moved to their new place, it gives them a better perspective of looking at all the things that are now left in the home that are now extra. And that can be dealt with through an estate sale or through a number of different ways at that point before we then sell the house. So I have a learning series at Meyer Gardens. So I do have some of the schedules and magnets, so I'd really encourage you guys to check that out at some point, or you can go to GR Savvy Seniors. I also have a couple different guides that I've developed, one that's specific to downsizing. The Grab and Go binder is more just how to get organized. It's this idea of all the different documents that you should have readily available and people that you should have at your disposal, and that someone else should know who these professionals are as well. And then finally, if you are moving, look for somebody who is either a certified senior housing professional or a realtor who specializes in working with seniors. Now, there are only 3 of us in Michigan that have this special designation, and it took more than a year of intense training for me to get to the point of, even starting to know. I'd love to be a resource at any time, regardless of whether people are selling or wanting to age in place. That is totally my goal, so I've got information on that. I love to dedicate this whole presentation. That is my husband's beloved grandmother, LauraTKelso, and she died at 102, but she was able to safely live on her own in a very old farmhouse until she was 95. But the reason for that was that she had 3 out of her 4 children within a mile who were checking on her on a regular basis. And my husband can tell stories day in and day out of, we never drove past grandma's without stopping by. They just did. So, just looking back at all of those important questions to ask of the people in your life who are thinking about aging in place and what that looks like and how they can help evaluate the choices for themselves and what makes sense for their future. So that's it. Thank you.